It's another edition of More News from Nowhere. I've not got my glasses on because, I've been tripping over the cat and stuff, so I'm not sure if I need a new pair or not at all. So I'm just kind of testing it. Uh,
Fair enough.
right,
Then
so
I'll have them back then in that case.
yeah, definitely. Right, I think we should start with just a few little puns and stuff, if you don't mind, Paul.
Okay, well, I usually do the puns at the end, but you can start at the start. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll have a go. Right, are you ready?
Right.
Right. A gun is no more dangerous than a cricket bat in the hands of a madman. Yeah, you see, yeah. Do you know they're now producing eating dogs for anorexics? Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, well, young boy, you'll never fly in it. You're too fat to be an astronaut. I love that one. I love that one.
What?
I de- yeah. I declare this thing, whatever it is, open. I love that. I don't think a prostitute is more moral than a wife, but they generally do the same thing. I love that. I love
What?
that. Yeah. Are we going to need earplugs if Madonna's going to sing the new James Bond theme? I love that. I wish Elton John would turn his microphone off when he's singing. I love that.
What? What's the
And
one?
lastly,
Go on then.
it's difficult to see how it's possible for Tom Jones to become immensely valuable by singing what amounts to be awful songs. So yeah, that's all the puns I've got. What do you think?
Not especially funny, but where did you get them from, though, mate?
I forgot to mention. Yeah, they're actually my little tribute to Prince Philip, who died. You know, Prince Philip. So they're just like little quotes, and that is done. Ha ha ha. Just
Ah,
just to show the kind of guy he is, I guess.
interesting. Okay. Well, I think it's a good time then to do a show about Prince Philip and roll intro.
Let's do it. So yes, Prince Philip is passed away very recently. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of Prince Philip or the royal family. I'm not a royalist at all. You know, we know where we are with the royals, and I like the kind of the history of the royal family as regards to the history of Britain and royals in the past.
Hmm.
You know, I like reading about that. It's kind of interesting, but I think modern royal family is kind of, I don't know, it doesn't ring anything to me. It's a bit, So I'm never really a fan of Prince Philip, really. And, I don't know what your thoughts are, Paul, on Prince Philip. I'm sad he's passed away, but he's 99 years old. It's a good innings, at the end of the day. But
Yeah, absolutely.
what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, yeah, about the same really as yourself. I'm not a royal family person either, never really have been. The only parts where I got interested in the royal family was really when Diana was around. And then I thought once obviously she passed away, that there was something not quite right about that death. And I thought really, I'm not even after that, and the way they handled it, with the flag situation, there wasn't really given much respect. I kind of lost respect a little bit for the royal family from that moment onwards, and then obviously recently things with Harry and Meghan, it just feels like it's a bit of a saga that I don't need to be aware of. And everyone's talking about it, and I don't really care too much for you.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think the general feeling with the royal family, I think, changed after Diana's death. Anyway, I think that I think up until then, pretty much most of the public was kind of admired them and held them at quite an esteem. But I think after Princess Diana's death, the whole dynamics changed. I think especially the way the death was handled and the way that when you look into it, how it really occurred, on the hands of certain people. And I think Prince Philip was very much involved in that, as well as obviously Prince Charles. From what I've read about it, it seems that Prince Philip had ties in with the MI6 and that he instigated some of it to happen. How true that is up for debate, I guess, but it has to be questioned, and there are there's links to it that make you question that. So I don't know. I find Prince Philip. I always found him an uneasy character for me. I don't know. It was like with anyone in that position. They're compromised. They've got part of an agenda. They're part of this bloodline and everything like that. And there's other there's other things going on that the public don't know. With it's what they're for, and Prince Philip was part of that, obviously. So the whole death thing, it's come at a strange time as well, I think.
In what way, mate?
Well, with the situation we're in, and with the recent royal family as well, we've not seen the Queen in public for ages, and with the recent Meghan and Harry interview that came in spotlight, it's as if in the middle of all this, we now have a death, Prince Philip. Is this to try and get the warmth back to the royal family? I'm not saying it's faked. I'm not saying the death is faked, but it just seems the timing is a bit, I don't know, it seems a bit coincidental a little bit. Mm-hmm. Are the royal family wanting something where they can use for the public to get back online with the royal family, something emotional? I don't know. I mean, it's just the timing of it for me, is a bit odd, but I know, I'm not saying his death has been faked, or we don't know. I mean, for all we know, he could have died ages ago, and now they're just using it now at this point to bring it forward at the right time. Maybe that's happening. We don't know. We don't know, but this is the kind of thing we know that they're capable of and what they do. But that's my thought. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, really, I've never really had any thoughts about Prince Philip. I've never really known him. Obviously, never known him, never seen him, never met him.
Have you never met him?
Never met him. And so really, I can't really say anything about him. Obviously, I think he's had a privileged life. From obviously he's had obviously the best healthcare, the best. It just feels like with the royal family in general, it's always been like an us and them situation. And people, I don't like to use the word brainwashing, but there's been lots of media, promoting the royal family to make us think X, Y, and Z about the royal family, and put them up into there, look up to them, like, oh, they're so great, they're so wonderful, and they bring a lot of money to the country. But then we also heard that obviously Man United football team probably brings more money into the country than the royal family. But yeah, in general, I'm not a royal family person, and especially with the Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, that also was quite a big one for me to think. There's lots more going off, and the way Jimmy Savile was also protected. I think Jimmy Savile was protected by maybe that family. Who knows? I can't say for sure, but that's what I've been learning about.
It does seem that way to me. I mean, Jimmy Savile was entered into the inner circle, the inner sanctums of the royal family. Which to do that, you have to have kind of done something quite extraordinary. You've got to leverage yourself, to them to that point. I mean, who gets into the inner circle? We know Jimmy Savile was. That's a fact. He was. He was on very personal terms with Charles, especially. So there's questions all over that, isn't there? There's absolute questions all over that. But I just feel that with the royal family, it's the only reason I think that most people want to keep it is just the history behind it. It's held up by it's. I mean, if you look at British history, it has got a magnificent history. The royal family has. When you look at it on a historical term in relating to Britain. But I mean, back then, hundreds of years ago, the royal family had more of. I think they had more power, more real power. Now it doesn't seem to be as real. As much. I mean, back then, the royal family, they held kingdoms, they held all the countries, all the nations in the palm of their hands. It was a huge dynasty, but they don't seem to be like that, in the modern royal way. So, in that context, I don't know, maybe I don't know. Because a lot of people question, do we still need the royal family, don't they? And in the modern world, that's probably a valid question, really. You know, I don't think it was valid hundreds of years ago. I think as a country, I'm looking at just as a country, not in anything else outside of that. I think the country needed the royal family. It was running it, basically, really running it. But I don't think they are now. I think there's other things behind it. I think things have come in front that we probably don't see, but it's very obvious when you look at it that they don't hold as much power as they used to. You know, they're just kind of playing a part. They're just playing, you know, they've got a role almost now. It's a role they're being kind of coerced into. I don't know if it's coerced into, but and they just live this life. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in member of the royal family, you know, I wouldn't want it, but so I don't feel kind of like they've got this privileged life that must be wonderful. I think it must be horrible being a royal member of the royal family.
Okay.
You know, because I think there's a lot of what I see is a lot of royal families. They probably don't. They wish they weren't in the royal family. I don't think Harry sometimes wishes he wasn't in it. I think sometimes he wishes he was just a normal guy, he could get a proper job and, you know, and just live life normally. I think some people I find that members of the royal family now in this modern era, they're born into this family and I don't think they want it. Okay. I think they're almost like forced into it because of the heritage behind it and the tradition behind it. So I'm just wondering in decades to come or generations to come whether the royal family will be stable enough to continue, whether it will just degenerate naturally. Well, I don't know. We won't know in our lifetime, but that's where I think it's going to go myself. I think it will just get less and less because there'll be less interest within the royal family to carry it on. You know, because the modern Britain doesn't really need a royal family as much, let's say, as much at least. So that's where I am with it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think, but I mean, in regards to what the Queen owns, I believe she's one of the main landowners. Yes, that's quite something, I guess. But that's heritage.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I did the quotes earlier in the front of the show, and as I was looking for the quote, I think I spoke to you off camera about this. When I was looking at the quotes, I actually found myself quite liking the guy, liking the guy, just because he was just so kind of off the cuff with some of the comments that you don't get with a lot of royal family in that position, that they'll just say what first comes out the mouth, you know. And I don't know whether it's just his upbringing or just the way he is, but it's just. But some of it can, I think, tell you what kind of person he is as well. Because, I mean, he's been saying something like, I've got here that he once said that women can't cook, you know. So it shows he has got this kind of old school, kind of bigoted kind of view of the world, you know. And obviously the quote about prostitutes and wife, that was, you know, so we know. So he reveals himself quite a bit, I think, with these quotes on a personal level. Yeah, which I think a lot of the public kind of strangely warm to, because they see it as a kind of see him as kind of a almost harmless old bigot, really. That's like a grandfather you bring to like the wedding who just makes racist comments in the corner. I think people saw him a bit like that, like not non-threatening almost, but behind that. There was something a bit more darker behind him. I just sensed there was something behind him that was just a little bit more, you know, that wasn't just this harmless old man in the corner being racist, you know, just because he's old school. There's something else behind him, you know. You just sense that.
And so another thing that Prince Philip is quite well known in our critical thinkers. I don't like to use the word conspiracy theorists. Terminology, but he's been a quote is very often said about him, where it's been said about when he dies, he wants to like reincarnate into a virus and kill quite a lot of the population.
Yeah, that's been doing the rounds, hasn't it? I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
I'm not sure if it comes from Is it a direct quote or is it from somewhere else?
It comes from like kind of a book he wrote or some kind of passage he wrote. And I mean, he definitely did say what he said, but there's kind of a background to it as well. I mean, I'll just read the full quote that it comes from, and it says, this is from Prince Philip. He says, "I just wonder what it would be like to be reincarnated in an animal whose species has been so reduced in numbers that it was in danger of extinction. What would be its feelings towards the human species whose population explosion had denied it somewhere to exist?" And then this is where the quote comes in. He says, "I must confess that I am tempted to ask for reincarnation as a particularly deadly virus, but that is perhaps going too far." So he's kind of backtracked a little bit in his quote by saying, but that's perhaps going too far. But for me, I think I mean, did he write this or say it? It looks like he wrote it.
I think it's from what you're saying, then, my friend. I think it's actually from a book.
It's a forward in a book. Yeah, he wrote it in a forward. So, for me, for him to say, but that's perhaps going too far, he's wrote it. So he's preconceived this idea already in his head. He knows already, and if he had said it, like kind of, I don't know, just off the top of his head, and then gone back, you might have said, well, maybe he kind of like realised, he probably went too far in saying that. That's because he's literally admitting he'd come back and kill people. That's literally what he's saying. But he's actually writing it down. He had the ability to delete that at any point before it became, written down. But he chose not to. He left it in. But I think that last bit where he says, "But that's perhaps going too far," as almost like a safety net for him. But his true feelings are in the bit before. That's my take on it, anyway.
I agree with you, mate. Yeah, I can't say otherwise. So yeah, so that quote that we do see quite often, it's just like a paraphrase of the book.
Yeah. But yes, but he wrote it, so he had preconceived. He knew, what he was saying. He meant it, So, there is I think there's a background to it, but it's not. I mean, we see the quotes very direct, don't we? When but it's still there for me. It still applies, really. Yeah. So that's my take on it, really. I can't say I can't say I hate the guy, and I can't say I love the guy. It's just, I didn't really think that much of him. I didn't spend much time thinking of him. All the royal family. I just, that's really it. But so that's where I'm with Prince Philip. I don't, and I'm not really going overboard on mourning his death. I've not spent any time mourning over his death or nothing like that. If people want to, if people, royalists and feel compelled, that's up to them. But it's an old guy. He's died. I'm sorry he's died. It's sad. Anyone dies. It's sad. But when I looked through Facebook comments the day he died, I got a mixture of people who were generally gave general sadness towards it and are rest in peace. And occasionally some people would put in, like, not saying he's glad he's dead, but he was a hunter. He's a racist. He did hunting. So what, he's dead. That kind of attitude came through. And for me, I'm somewhere in between. But that's me.
Yeah, same here. I think I'll go with the same on that one. Like I said, I don't know the guy, but yeah, he seemed to be like a bit of a racist, like you said, and said some horrible things, and like say maybe some energy behind him, like say some dark energy, maybe was there. That's just my sense to it as well.
It just seems that he didn't know when to switch off sometimes. Like when there's the famous one where there was some British students in China, something, and he said to him, if you stay here too long, you'll get slitty eyes, things like that. It's like, what? Okay, and that's, I mean, to Prince Philip, that would just seem like nothing wrong with that, So that just so you can get elements of what he was like just reading his quotes, because he was open with them. I don't think you can get that with literally any other royal that's alive today that would be that open, you know, in just public quoting and stuff. You know, you're certainly not going to get that with the Queen. The Queen says very little about anything. And you know, who knows what her opinions are on anything? No one knows, you know. But you know,
yeah, no, it's unless you have Harry and then they go on Oprah. Yeah, there's lots of quotes there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the young generation of the royal family are like I said, they're more in the modern world, so they're more open. They're not going to be that kind of refined kind of, you know, everything back and unemotional like the Queen. She's trained to do that. She was trained to do that from child, you know. And the royal family back then were trained to be able to, you know, just have no emotion, to deliver like that, and you know, not have any opinion, and just be strong in that. And the modern royal family don't have that. They're more open. I think that's what Princess Diana brought, and I think this is where the difference is. And I think it's almost like I see Princess Diana when she came to the royal family as like the beginning of the end. And I think in 100 so years time, it's going to continue, and it'll just. I don't know. Might not, but it just seems that's what's happening. You know, on a very slow scale. There's new generations come, but we'll see. I don't know.
Definitely, yeah. So, in regards to myself, because I want to just have a quick funny joke with you, if that's okay.
Oh, love it! Come on, let's do it.
Joke.
So, what's on your mind then, Paul?
Well, I've been recently in court. I've been suing an airlines. Basically, they lost my luggage.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, I just lost the case.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good, and it's a good one to end on. Well, it's on that note. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Bye bye.